My name is JoDe.
And I'm Jerad.
So when I was in college, I found myself pregnant. I am one of 5 girls. I am number 4 of 5. There's an 8-year age gap between me and my next older sister. So it's almost like there's 2 families. And my older sisters were raised with my mom and dad. When I was 6 years old, my mom died. And shortly after, it was about 4 months after my mom passed, he remarried. My younger sister and I grew up in, a household with a step parent. My dad was a drinker. He was not a violent drinker or anything like that. He loved his girls. If there was anything, he was protective of his girls. And so I knew love, but I also knew not so much. I was the good girl growing up. I always did the things that I was supposed to do, or at least I felt like I was supposed to do. I've loved Jesus for my entire life. My earliest memories are in church. My mom was the one that made sure that we were in church. And when my mom passed, my dad, I don't know if he ever went to, I know that he did. I knew he knew Jesus because, beside the toilet was his Bible. I had family who loved me. My dad was one of 11 brothers and sisters. So I had aunts all around. I had older sisters. I had people who loved me. And so my aunt always made sure I was in church growing up. And she was my Sunday school teacher. And some of my best, I still remember stories that she told me of the Bible. She was the best teacher. So I grew up mostly with my younger sister. So fast forward to college, and when I got in college, I did not walk such a straight line, but I still went to all of the campus ministry events. I was in, I hopped to all of the campus ministries. I found myself a great group of friends, but I also found myself a party group of friends. And so we really were pretty a little bit double-minded. We would go to a worship night and then go out dancing at the bar afterwards. So why do the two coincide? They do not. It was, the counterfeit that I now know it as the counterfeit. So I was always, though, a little bit boy crazy, and I was the one that kissed a lot of boys. And one day that turns into more than just kissing. And so I find myself pregnant. So I'm thinking, the shame. The shame. What are my sisters going to think of me? What's my dad going to say? Oh my God. I call my friend and I tell her I'm pregnant. And she's like, nope, you're not pregnant. Well, we'll take a pregnancy test and we'll find out you're not pregnant. It's good. So we get a pregnancy test. We get 2 pregnancy tests. I get both of them say positive. And then I go, just for good measure, the third pregnancy test is surely going to say that it's negative, since there's 2 false positives, right? And so we go to the doctor the next day. And when I went to the doctor the next day, I found, of course, that I was in fact pregnant. And so I'm like, okay, so I don't know what I'm going to do. Again, the shame. Good Christian girl is pregnant. And that's me. I don't know what I'm going to do. My friend's like, okay, invite him over, let him know. She was so gracious to take such good care of me. She was such a good friend. She still is a good friend. And I get together with this guy to talk, and he says, okay, I don't have anything going on Thursday, so I can take you to the city and get this taken care of. And I said, wait a minute, what? Are you talking about abortion? And he says, well, I'm not going to marry you. I was like, well, I don't want to marry you. And so, well, what are you expecting? I'm like, I don't know what I'm expecting, but I don't know that I want an abortion. And so that conversation ends, and we go to, I don't remember the course of events, like exactly the days and how it happened, but we go and we talk to, my friend and I go and we talk to our spiritual leaders, and they tell us, they said, it's okay. We understand if you want to have an abortion. Like, this is going to change the course of your life. This is going to change the course of your life. You're not going to be able to do the things that you have dreamed of doing because you now have a baby to take care of. So we will not judge you if you choose abortion. And that really, I think it really surprised me. I was just like, oh my gosh. And so then we go out to my friend's truck, and the first thing that she says to me, she looks at me and she goes, so you're not going to do that? And I was like, I know. And she gets so excited. She's like, JoDe, you're going to have a baby. And I'm like, I know. And I just start crying. And so it still like gets brought up with the guy, because I'm still trying to navigate this. Like, where does this even go? Like, I don't even know is he going to even be a part of things? Like, and I told him, because he asked me again, I remember driving around just in his truck, because that was a place where there was privacy and nobody listening in, nobody potentially like listening to my shame. And this has happened, like keeping this a secret, which I kept it a secret for 5 months. That I was pregnant. And so I don't know how I did that. But for 5 months, I kept it a secret until the rumor mill came out. But he asked the question, are you going to keep it? And I was like, I think so, because like, your deed is done. But for me, that's the one thing that I've ever wanted to do in my entire life, is be a mother. And having lost my mother at 6 years old, that was the one thing I wanted to do, was be a mom. And what if this was my one opportunity that God gave me? And I chose to get rid of that. I chose to say no. I chose to say, like, I know that this was the consequence of my sin, but I'm not going to go through with it. Like, I was raised in church, and I knew this is not what I'm supposed to do. And that's all I could think about, is like, I'm not supposed to do this. My son taught me what love was. Like, I knew Jesus my whole life, and I loved Jesus my entire life, but it was my son that taught me what it was to love. Like, have that absolutely unconditional love. I didn't have respect enough for myself prior to that time. I didn't have respect enough for myself to choose the right people for me. But I had so much love for my son that I wasn't going to allow anyone to hurt him. And at that point, I was like, God, I don't need anyone. I don't need anybody. I am totally fine. I know that I'm going to be a single mother for the rest of my life, and I'm okay with it, because I don't need anyone else. I've got you, and I've got my son. And I think it was at that moment that God was like, okay, now she's ready. And in walks this guy. I found a love of theater my freshman year of college. And so I had actually started going on auditions and that sort of thing. When I was in college, had gone to a couple of auditions and things. And everybody knew this, but that was what I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll try this. Theater, acting, like, I loved it. It was so much fun. And so when my spiritual leaders at that time, when they said that, when they said to me, your life is not going to be what you planned it to be. I know that they were thinking, there's no way that you've planned this out. You want to be an actress, and you're not going to be able to do that with a kid. You're not going to be able to have the life that you have planned in your mind, this life that you've created in your mind. You're not going to be able to do that. And it did stop it stopped what my plan was. I didn't go on any more auditions. I didn't do anything like that. But instead, I went the education route and I taught for a few years. But, I think about to myself, man, I didn't do that, but I don't regret it. I don't regret it for anything. I don't regret that my life, wasn't, that I didn't go that direction. I don't regret that I didn't do any of those things, because I feel like my life is so much fuller than what it ever would have been if that's the direction that I went. I feel like God's so good. And it just overwhelms me with how good he is, because I think of Romans 8:28, how he turns all things for good for those who love him and who are called according to his purpose. Like, even though it was not God's best yes for me, he turned it to be the best yes. And I remember going and talking to my youth group leader, and talking to her about it, and telling her, I expect people to, she's like, well, do you think that people would treat you differently somewhere else? And not meaning, and I know her heart was not to hurt me or anything like that. And I was like, but I expect you to love me, because you know who I am. Those spiritual leaders who did tell me that about that
no one would judge you.
Yeah, that when they said, we're not going to judge you if you choose this, they did end up supporting me in that. I mean, we had a baby shower in the campus ministry. Like, they had a baby shower for me. I just remembered something that came up a couple of, maybe a year ago, a couple months ago. I don't know. I have a friend who is running a pregnancy center in our small town. And she told me, and I just told her, I said, man, this would have been amazing if this were here when I was in college. And she said, I've used your story so many times. She said, I actually told some people about your story. And she said, in that night that you were so brave. She said, I remember you being so brave. And I didn't even remember this. I didn't remember this moment. I didn't remember that I had done this, but I heard one person, I heard it come back to me that I was pregnant. It was when I was hiding my pregnancy. And only a handful of people knew. Well, a handful of people knew, plus the people that the guy had told, and someone that the guy had told. She told some people, and it was getting out, and it was getting around. And I thought, I need to go tell my people. I've got to go tell my people, that my friends, I got to go tell my friends, like, not your close-knit friends that already know, but like the larger circle. And so I went to worship night, and I let them know that I didn't even remember it until this friend brought it back up to my memory. And she said, that one night when you came to worship night and you told everybody that you were pregnant, she said, I just remember thinking how brave you were to just tell everybody like that, just call it out, so that they didn't have to hear it through the rumor mill, but instead they heard it straight from your mouth. The next day when I went home and I told my dad was so gracious. And he told me, he's like, these things happen. He's like, I'm not going to judge you.
I was, to start with, well, of course, when it started, I was like, of course, I was madly in love with her and also madly in love with Braylon. But like then when things kind of settled and we got married and I adopted Braylon, for a while I was a little upset. Like I was angry that I wasn't Braylon's biological father. But having said that, again, he would not be who he is if, I love him the way he is. And just because I am not his biological father does not mean that I love him any less than any of my other sons. He is absolutely 100% my child. And I had to get over that a little bit. I had to pray about it. I had to, but he, of course, I don't know if Braylon would be the person he is too if I didn't step in. Because he is. He's a lot like me. So I believe that all children need a father figure. And I am blessed that I was able to step up and do that for him. And I want to change that at all. Because that's my boy. And I don't say like, I mean, sometimes when people don't know, they have no idea, because I don't say she had a child and we have two together. I don't do that. I say I have 3 boys. I have 2 older ones and a 11-year age gap and a big surprise after that. So we had several classes together. Even though she was much older than I was, I did not want to be in college. My grandpa kind of forced me to be in college. He said before I could come out and start working full-time on the farm, which was my plan since I was 3, that he wanted me to get a college education. I said, and what? He said, I don't care, just a 4-year college degree. I said, okay. So I signed up to go to school, and I did not want to, I hate, like, and this, I was not a great student. I hated, like, math and English and all the boring stuff that went with school. So I had talked to my advisor, because I was also a theater major, like JoDe, and I was like, I really don't want to, I want to break from English and math and science, and is there any way I can just take classes related to my major for like the next year? And she goes, well, that's a little unconventional because you're supposed to have like your prerequisites and all of that stuff. She goes, but yeah, that's fine. We can work something out. So she let me do it. And that's how I was in some of the same classes that she was in her.
Well, and I was supposed to have already taken those classes. God, so good.
Yeah.
I was supposed to have already taken those classes, and it didn't work within my schedule. So I was behind. That's why it was my 5th year. I was behind. So I had those 2 classes.
My first semester, that's how we were in a class together. So I kind of got to know her a little bit there. Of course, I was in no means interested in her at that time. I thought she was cute. I mean, she's pretty good looking. I mean, I liked her personality, but I was 20 and a freshman in college, and this was the girl in my class who was having a baby. And so I was like, that was like furthest thing from my mirror at the moment. And at the time I did have a girlfriend, and so like later on that semester, me and that girlfriend broke up, and that next semester had been my 2nd semester of college. She was doing her student teaching under my mother, who was a speech theater teacher in high school. But my mom was also having a lot of health problems, and so she was gone. She was sick a lot. She was not there a lot. And so that her competitive speech team was still like fluid and working right and doing what they were supposed to. Me and my brother, who had just graduated off of our team, were going up. And my brother, that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to be a speech and theater teacher and was getting his degree for that. We were going up and helping them a lot. Like, so whenever we had breaks out of class, we would go up during the day and work with our students. Of course, JoDe was up there also working with them. So we were spending time like a lot, like, because I think like Tuesday and Thursday, I had no classes. So I was up there all day at the school Tuesday and Thursday. And then we were also in a play together, musical together, that, and the director at the time was pretty lax about start. She'd be like, well, we're going to start here. But nobody would show up. There was a handful of us who would show up on the time we were supposed to start. Well, then the others wouldn't start straggling in until they got off work or they were done partying. And we really wanted to start, even though we were supposed to be there at 6 o'clock, you may not really get started in play practice until 10, 11, and then it would stretch on into 1, 2 in the morning. And so we were spending like all day together and then all evening together and on into the wee hours. And so we started building a relationship, and I really liked her. She didn't think she doesn't, she still, to this day, I still don't think she thinks I really liked her. But like
he never made a move.
One
I had to be the one to say
I'm not a real outgoing person. I might have eventually made a move, but she, like one night, I remember my twin brother was so mad at me because it was like 2 o'clock in the morning and we'd just gotten out of play practice, and she was like, oh my gosh, I have all these papers to grade and they're due tomorrow and I don't know when I'm going to get them done. And I was like, well, like, is there some sort of like, is it like multiple choice? Like, is it something that we can help grade? I forced my brother to go over there with me and help her grade all these papers at 2 in the morning, which my brother was furious about. I remember him being like, on the way up there, he goes, I can't believe that you're making me go grade these stupid papers. He's like, are you ever going to ask her out? Because this is getting ridiculous. So I asked her out on a date. And I set it up where my younger sister, who was in high school, she was a freshman in high school, was supposed to babysit Braylon so I could take her out on this date. And when we went to pick Braylon up.
Well, I asked him, I was like, are you sure this is okay? Because I really don't want to fail. His mother controlled my grade. I was like, this is my final semester. Like,
but my mom really liked playing with Braylon.
Yeah,
she liked.
She just thought that we were
at play practice. She didn't know we were out on a date. And when we got done with the date and we went to go pick Braylon up, my sister was nowhere in sight, and Braylon was with my mom, like on her bed. She was playing with him on the bed there. Of course, I was young, and all of my friends, none of them had been in serious relationships. So I was the first one of my friends to get married, and the first one of my friends to, be in a serious relationship period.
And it kind of broke you up.
Yeah, I broke up the band by getting involved with JoDe, but that was okay. That was, we were on different paths at that point, and I will say my college experience was a little different than most, because like I said, I was just a freshman when we got together, and we had by the time I graduated, I was married and raising 2 kids, because Brickman was on the way before I graduated also. So my college experience was a little different than most, but again, I would not trade that for anything. But
and it wasn't your plan.
No, it was not my plan at all. But it has worked out pretty well for me.
I'm now working with college students, and I'm able to tell my story, and I tell them if they ever find themselves in this situation, that we We're going to love him regardless, and to picture my son. But I also tell him they really need to be questioning those who know the Lord. Like those who know the Lord. Because if you don't know the Lord, you may not know that this isn't what you shouldn't be doing all the time. And when they know the Lord, it's like, hey, question yourself, what is God's best yes for you? And realize that we have consequences, and but if it happens, we're going to love you, but it's not easy. Not everybody's story may turn out like my story because they may not make the same decisions that I chose to make. What we haven't captured is that the Bible is a book of love. There may be a lot of things in it. It's a book of love. It's like, hey, if you do this, like this is going to be your best life. If you do this, whew, girl, you got this. Not just you. It's not you that has it. God's got you. He's holding you right now. He loves you so much. It does not matter if you are in the pit or on a mountaintop. He loves you so much. So seek his face. Seek his face and you will find him. He loves you so much. And can I tell you that he does not love you any more on the mountaintop than he does if you may be in a pit right now. Seek the Lord. Know that he is your Jehovah Jireh. He is your one. He is your provider, and he's going to provide for you everything that you need to move forward. There are people who love you so much. There are people who love you so much, and there are resources available. So please reach out. There are resources available to help you through this. It may not be easy, but you know what? Nothing that's worth anything is absolutely easy. And your life will be so much richer. Just like my life is so much richer. My husband, I know, is my reward. My husband is my reward for keeping my son. I know that. I don't know that I would have dated him before. Even though I love him so much. I don't know if he would have been what I had chosen for me, but God chose him instead. And I would much rather have a man that God chose for me than for me to try to choose someone for me. So if you're afraid that you're going to be single forever, there's a lot of people who don't have babies who are also afraid that they're going to be single forever. God's got you, and he loves you. And he loves that baby. And let me tell you, there is so much purpose for that baby. There's so much purpose for that baby. I wish. I wish for you the love. I wish for you the love that I have for my son. Because God blessed me so much. God blessed me so much by having that baby. So I just pray those blessings for you. Sweet girl. I pray those blessings for you.
So, as a young man, getting involved in a relationship with a woman who has already had a baby, I would encourage you to not just love that woman, but to love that child with your whole heart. Every child deserves a father who will give him unconditional love. And it may not always be the easiest thing if that child is not yours, but I promise you it will be one of the most rewarding things you ever do with your life. Period. It'll bring you such great joy at the end. So don't look at that woman as damaged goods. Just look at her for who she is and who that child is for who that child is. And it will, I promise it'll be worth it.
Not always easy, but worth it.
Yeah. Not always easy, but worth it. Yeah. Oh.